You got a marriage on the rocks and it's starting to suck. You got some intimacy issues and your sex life stuck. Put yourself in the hands of Mrs. Jessica Weeks. She's got all the marriage hacks, tips, tricks, and tweaks. She's bringing truth about marriage, laying myths to rest. Taking on the hard topics no one else will address. Put your earbuds in and listen up real close. Be here every single week and make sure you take notes. For some expert advice way beyond common sense. Take your everyday marriage to a marriage of confidence.
You're listening to the Confident Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica.
And I'm your host, Sean.
The no fluff, straightforward, real talk, real world experience, and practical solutions. We talk about what no one else does.
And we're funny too. We have everything for your family and relationships, from the playroom to the bedroom. We're the show that has couples talking. Thank you so much for joining us today.
We're really excited about today's topic. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Don't forget to rate the podcast. Thank you, everybody who's been doing it. We're loving reading the reviews. Also, don't forget to subscribe, you guys.
Yeah, please subscribe and visit our website also. That's www.theconfidentmarriage.com. That's our hub for everything that is The Confident Marriage. We have our articles, or as Jess likes to call them, our blogs. We have our resources page, all our podcasts, ways to contact Jessica and I, or send a message to the show, and all our links to social media.
Yes, we are on Twitter at CMarriage Show, Instagram at Confident Marriage, and Facebook Confident Marriage. We are also on Pinterest at Confident Marriage.
I love Pinterest.
Please like and follow us on this. We're always doing posts on there, things that you guys might find interesting and helpful and inspirational.
Live videos.
We just did one tonight.
Yeah, we like to have the live videos and bring in some friends of the program. So check those out. Be on the lookout. Bolo.
We are awful at live videos.
We are.
I mean, you guys hear us on the podcast and you wouldn't think, but we don't do so good on those.
It's hard to talk through this beard.
Yeah. Well, it's hard for people to see your smile.
Everybody so you need to smile more. I was like, I am smiling. This is my happy face.
But we have a lot of fun doing them. And we
do.
love it when you guys join, especially when we're doing it live and it's not just a video that we post.
Yeah, it's a good way to interact with us.
Yeah. And we'll always ask your questions. So if you ever see that we go live, hop on and talk to us because we won't ignore you, I promise.
Unless they're inappropriate. And then we'll just read them and laugh to ourselves. Probably.
Everybody's going to be watching. What are they laughing at?
I know.
So we have some really great news.
We do.
I think you guys are going to be really excited about it. So we have a couple of things to announce.
Ooh, couple. Is that a pun?
It could be.
I love your puns. She's got nice puns.
Thank you. So do you.
Thank you.
So we have a spot opening for our couples mentoring program.
Yes. We graduated a couple. They made it through. Doing really well.
Yeah.
And now we'd like to open that spot up for anyone else who might need some help. And so with the mentoring program, we do one-on-one combined with couples sessions. And Jess usually is mentoring the women, and I'm working with the men usually. And then we do the couple sessions, all four of us, Jess and I and the couple. There's different packages available. It's really fun. We make it exciting, and you get a lot of benefit for your marriage. And we deal with anything from major betrayal, trauma, and crisis down to just fine-tuning your marriage.
Right. We make it really lighthearted. And there are times where I can show tough love and be a little challenging on you, but...
You play good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, I do it for your benefit. So we really do love working with you guys. So if you're interested, you can go to the website and check it out there. If you book us through the website, it's usually just on a one-time basis. If you're looking to work with us long-term, email us through the website at Contact Us, and I will get back to you on the package program. If you go to the website to book it, it's just really maybe for a one-time thing.
Yeah, but all joking aside, we really do some intense work, and there's great benefit to it, and we love the satisfaction we get from being able to pass on what we've learned. So if you like what you hear on our podcast and you need a little help in your marriage, please contact us because we can help.
Yes. And so one of the things that I really love about the way that we do our program is I work with the woman and Sean works with the husband. So I work with the wife and Sean works with the husband. And then we come together for that couples session for all four of us, as Sean said. But what I really love about it is Sean and I have talked about this before. You can't fix a marriage because the marriage is made up of two people. Mm-hmm. So the work that Sean does with the husband is helping him through his trials and his struggles and his challenges. And the work that I do with the wife is helping her through her trials and her struggles in the marriage. And then we come together as a team and kind of fine tune all that and work together. And that's really different from a lot of the other stuff that you'll find out there, because we really believe that the marriage's success is a success of each of you individually.
Yeah, like we've said before, Jess tried to fix me and I tried to fix her, and that didn't work so well.
No.
And then we both tried to fix the marriage, but we both still had issues, so the marriage didn't get too far. But when we really turned around and started looking at ourselves and fixing those things wrong with ourselves, then the marriage started to really benefit. And that's kind of the focused approach we take in the mentorship program.
Absolutely.
And it's completely confidential and completely personalized to each couple. We don't do a cookie cutter thing. It's not an outline that we follow. We tailor each couple's curriculum, I guess, if you want to call it, to what their specific problems are.
Yes. And if you're a husband or you're a wife who is really just looking for some mentorship for yourself and not necessarily as a couple right now, Sean does do individual mentorship with just husbands, and I do them with just wives. So you could check that out. Again, all on our website. And like I said before, if you book through the website, it's more of like a one-time here and there thing. If you really want to do the ongoing, reach out to us at Contact Us.
Mm-hmm. Or even if you want to just set up a meeting to see what we're all about and see if it might work for you, we do that.
Yes, we do offer you a half-hour free session where we talk with you about what the challenges are, how we would help, and make sure it's a good fit so you're not jumping into something that you're like, well, what if it doesn't work? We got you. We want you to feel comfortable, and we want to be able to feel like we can click and be comfortable with you. So that's why we offer that free session.
Honey, who wouldn't click with us?
I know.
We're amazing.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Kind of.
Sometimes. 60% of the time, I'm right every time. So go figure that one out.
So the last thing before we get to our topic is we do have something new coming up, and it's starting in March, and we're doing a monthly couples marriage solutions group.
Yes, so marriage solutions is done in a group setting, and it is focused on solutions to problems in your marriage. And you not only have the benefit of getting feedback and advice and coming up with a solution to your problem from Jessica and I, but you'll have the benefit of having other couples and individuals in that group. They'll kind of join in, and we try to solve the problems in a group setting. So we're going to start that. It's an hour-long group each month, and the space is going to be limited because we want to keep the group small enough so that everybody can be heard. And we're going to offer that at $35 per session, and that price goes for whether you're a couple or an individual. So $35 for you and your spouse, or $35 for you as an individual. But it's solution oriented. It's not going to be just coming in and talking about the problem. We're going to send everybody away with some solutions to those problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're welcome to come every month or just pop in when you have questions or challenges you need help with. It's not any commitment, but we would love to have you there.
Yeah, it's not a thing where you're required to come every month. It's as needed.
Yeah. And even if you just want to pop in and join the group and just listen to the suggestions and the inspiration and the hope, you are more than welcome to do that. You're not at all going to be forced to talk. Mm-hmm. So we hope that you sign up for that. Again, it's on our website, www.theconfidentmarriage.com, and click on solutions. It's the first one. It's the marriage solutions group.
Yep, marriage solutions. It's a pink button.
Yes.
And even if you can't find the information there, or you're having trouble, you can reach out to us on Instagram or through Facebook, or contact us through email.
Yeah. We hope to see you guys there. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it will be.
We're going to keep it lighthearted and fun.
As lighthearted as we can.
Speaking of marriage solutions, let's get to our topic this week. This is a topic that not a lot of us share with other people.
No.
A lot of us experience this and go through it. It's addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Addiction in your marriage is a struggle for the addict, but it's also a struggle for the addict's spouse and their family. And it hits us in ways that often we have a really hard time sharing with other people. They just don't quite understand what we're going through as an addict or as the spouse of an addict.
Yeah, so addiction is one of the things that people who are in the grips of it don't usually talk about. And if they don't seek help in the right place, they don't really have a forum or a way to talk through the things that they go through, the things their family goes through. And let's be honest here, most people are ashamed to talk about it if they've had a problem with addiction or if they're currently having a problem with addiction. And addiction is a lot more widespread than people might think, because it doesn't just take the form of, everybody thinks of a heroin addict or an alcoholic, but addiction can manifest in gambling. It can manifest in sexual addiction, pornography addiction. You can display addictive behavior and have addiction affect your life in things that may even on the surface seem healthy, like exercise or the way you eat or hobbies that go out of control. So it affects a lot more people than I think we generally think, and a lot of people have a lot of shame around it and don't like to talk about it.
So obviously this week we're going to be talking about addiction, and it's going to be a hybrid of addiction and Sean's story. And I really hope that if you or your spouse are struggling with addiction, that you really pay attention and you seek some help, because there is another side. There's a better side and there's a better life. And I promise you, I know it's hard, but when you get there, it's going to be the best thing you've ever done for you and your family.
Yeah, so and of course for me, there's a lot of shame around what I've done and what I've done in regards to my addiction and the places it's taken me. But I've always been very open talking about it, not just on this program, but in my personal life and around the people that are part of my life. And because I feel like if I hold any of it inside, I'm just keeping myself sick in some way. When you release those secrets and you talk about shameful things, it's a way to get it out of you, and it's a way to make sure that you don't repeat those same mistakes. So I've been very open about my addiction, and I'm going to talk about that to a great extent here, and we're going to talk about the ways that it affects the addict while they're going through it. We're going to talk about the ways that it continues to affect the addict even after they stop using whatever they're addicted to, and the ways that it affects your spouse in a marriage, and the ways that it affects your family, because addiction really, really will not only affect you, and it won't just affect the people immediately around you or the people that love you, but it affects everyone you interact with.
It does. One of the things that you and I hear a lot, and not just when we work with couples, what I mean is our friends, our family, or other people who we know that are either in the program or not. And that is the common statement of, oh, I'm not an addict, I'm not an alcoholic because I don't have a problem with it. I don't drink, or I don't use all the time. Well, I don't have to do it all the time. I can function just fine. I can go weeks without using drugs or drinking. I'm not an addict. I think there's a misconception about what addiction is. And I don't think a lot of us really understand the definition of an addict. I think a lot of us think an addict is someone who is maybe strung out on drugs or drinking all the time or has to have a drink. And I don't think that the true definition of addiction is defined. So let's start there.
Yeah, so I think we could probably spend the rest of this show and maybe another show after it trying to define everything that is an addict and going through all the different definitions. So I'm going to try to boil it down to something really simple. So it's not about how, and I've told actually our mentoring clients this and a lot of people this over the years, it's not about whether you get completely drunk out of your mind every time you drink, or whether you're using drugs every day or not. It really boils down to, is the use of whatever we're talking about affecting my life in a negative way? Is it decreasing my quality of life? Is it affecting the people around me? And it could be that maybe you just use drugs very sporadically, but when you do, it eats up all your money, or it causes you to get in fights with your wife, or it causes you to be mean or not present with your children, but you're only doing it maybe once a month, but it's affecting the people around you, it's affecting your life. So maybe it's a substance problem. It could be that you do it all the time, and then that's a little more obvious because it's taking your time, you're doing things, you're spending a lot of your time feeding that addiction if you're doing it all the time. It's not, like I said, it's not about how much you do it. It's about whether it affects your life in a negative way. So
that doesn't mean that you get to be defensive when someone tells you that it's affecting your life or them.
So that's another sign of an addict right there is if you bring it up, if someone's bringing it up to you and you find yourself getting defensive, getting angry, being in denial, and you're not able to take a look at it, then maybe that's a red flag right there that you have a problem.
We have a saying in our marriage, if someone's saying something to us, especially to each other, me to my husband and my husband to me, there's a reason why we're telling them that. We didn't make it up out of thin air. It came from somewhere.
And with addiction, if you don't think you have a problem with something, that's not going to be the end-all and be-all tell of whether you're an addict or not. It's when multiple people are telling you, or when you find yourself having to hide a habit from people because you're ashamed of it, or you don't know what they would think if they found out you were doing it. That's another red flag. So I'll go back to a little bit about myself. And I'm not going to eat up the whole show with my history because, again, we could take a whole month to go through my history. But I started using drugs and drinking at an early age. I probably started drinking when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I would take liquor from my parents' liquor cabinet. And by the time I was 12 or 13, every single thing up there was filled with water. It wasn't filled with liquor anymore. My parents were probably wondering why their bourbon was now clear.
What a disappointment for date night and mom and dad.
They hadn't touched that stuff in so long because, see, they didn't necessarily have a problem with it. So they weren't up there drinking it all the time. They just had it because that's in the 70s and 80s. That's what you did. You had a liquor cabinet in case you had people over or whatever. But, I found out from an early age that if I drank this stuff, it made me feel weird and it made me feel funny and everything was a little more fun. And it also had the effect of squashing any emotional pain I was feeling, or getting rid of my shyness, or, I was able to mask things a little bit.
Were you shiny?
Shyness, not shininess.
I'm so shiny.
No, but if I start losing any more of my hair, I might start to get shiny. I'm actually pretty happy about my hairline. The drugs didn't affect that.
No.
But I remember even in middle school and my early teen years, taking over-the-counter medications like NyQuil and stuff, and just to get that sense of feeling different and escaping. And that progressed as I went into high school to marijuana use, weed, whatever the kids call it nowadays, Mary Jane. And from high school on, early high school and on, it was kind of like, let's go. And I would use it every day, and I would use it when I got up in the morning. It wasn't like something that I couldn't do first thing in the morning. It didn't tire me out like that. I wasn't like my other friends who would have a little bit of it and they were like, no more for them. I would keep doing it all day long, and I was good to go. And through all that, I kept drinking, and of course that led to experimenting with other things throughout high school and many other recreational drugs. None of them really caught my fancy. Definitely an abuser of marijuana. I'd say an abuser because there are a lot of people out there who can use it, and they use it responsibly, just like drinking. There's a lot of people who use it and use it responsibly. I would never advocate that nobody should be drinking or nobody should be using weed or anything like that. If you can use it responsibly, more power to you. I was not one of those people. So I tried a lot of different things. I didn't really care. I would kind of do whatever I could, which is another red flag, but never really fell too deep into anything. And then in my early 20s, I discovered pain pills. And it was all downhill from there.
Yeah.
Because while the marijuana stuck with me, other things could come and go. I discovered how I felt on those opiate painkillers, and that was the end for me. I didn't need to look for anything else. I'd found what I liked. I was willing to do almost whatever it took to get them. I didn't go so deep and dark down that road as some people do. I guess at least I kept some sense of morality about myself and had some personal boundaries and limits. But I mean, it didn't stop me from stealing from my family or stealing from my friends or lying to doctors or using all the money I had to try to get more. And it just kind of consumed me.
You did hit quite a few hard rock bottoms, though.
Oh, I went through many rock bottoms.
And a lot of people say, well, when you hit rock bottom, that's it. Not necessarily.
Well, just because you feel like you hit rock bottom doesn't mean it was your rock bottom.
It was your, right.
So, and that's something they talk about in the program. My rock bottom might have been completely different from your rock bottom.
Yeah.
You might have ended up naked and homeless and in jail with, needle marks all over your arm, or you may have gotten caught by the police once and you quit after that. It's whatever gets you there. So, I had many quote unquote rock bottoms. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But none of them really stopped me. It wasn't until I was married and had children, and I wasn't even using as much as I had in the past, but it's weird that I could be using so much at certain points in the past and it didn't take me down as hard as it did when I finally hit my rock bottom. But that's because I had a lot more to lose and a lot more that I cared about, and I'd had a little bit of a taste of what a real life could be like.
Mm-hmm. So I've known Sean almost my whole life, and I've always known the addict Sean. And there were times in my life that I had seen him, and I'd worry about his well-being, if he was going to survive. And then there were times where he looked like he was doing really well. Not too long after my divorce, Sean and I saw each other at a party, and he looked amazing. He told me that he'd been clean for about a year. He was back in school for his nursing degree, and I thought, okay, this guy's getting his stuff together. It wasn't until a couple months after we were married that I discovered that he had still been using the whole time.
Yeah, and so it was not a lie that I was in college working towards my nursing degree. I was actually doing really well. I was getting straight A's in college, and I was on a path to cleaning myself up. But when I said I was clean for a year, I might have fudged that a little bit. What probably would have been the truth would have been to say, well, I'm not really using the hard stuff anymore, even though I still do it occasionally. But I'm still smoking weed every now and then. But I'm using that to quit the pain pills. And then I'm gonna use drinking to quit the weed, and then eventually I'll stop drinking.
Yeah.
But instead, I cut out the middleman and just told her I was done with everything, which is where I fully intended to be one day, but I wasn't there yet.
So in your addiction, even when you were only using a little bit, and you weren't using it consistently, there were a lot of challenges that you faced because of that drug addiction, even when you were using it very minimally. And it wasn't until you had gone through recovery and had been clean for quite a few years and worked on yourself that you really started to see the effects of your addiction that you didn't see while in your addiction.
Yeah, so let me talk about a couple of truths of addiction. And the first one I want to say is, whether you're using a lot of hard drugs or whether you're using a little bit of recreational drugs, maybe you're slamming heroin in your veins 3 times a day, or maybe you're just smoking pot occasionally and drinking here and there. If you're an addict, you're going to have those addictive traits, those negative addictive traits affecting your life if you're actively using and you're not getting healthy as a person. And the second truth I want to talk about is that, and this kind of sucks for all those addicts out there, when you quit using drugs, if you're an addict, the negative behaviors don't stop because the drugs have stopped. The drugs are not the cause of your negative behaviors. They're a symptom of them. Mm-hmm. Because I firmly believe, though there are many, many theories and we won't get into any debates here, I firmly believe that internal struggles and demons that have not been dealt with play a big component in becoming a drug user for addicts.
So I'm in school for my psychology degree to be a licensed marriage and family therapist. Mm-hmm. And it is well talked about in the mental health field. Addiction is not the problem. The addiction is the self-solution to the problems.
It's self-medicating.
Right. Addiction always stems from things going on inside of us that we have either not dealt with, that we're trying to cover up, or we don't want to feel.
Right. And well, there have been lots of theories put forward that addiction is genetic. Like
It is.
It runs in families, and I see the evidence of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, while addiction, especially alcoholism, they do find that it is genetic. Then the argument there is that there are people who come from alcoholic and drug addict families who don't go into addiction.
Right.
And that has a lot to do with being able to, and most of the time, dealing with a lot of those things that were inside of us that would have driven us down that path. We're just more likely to become drug addicts or alcoholics if we come from a family of such, and that's how we learn to deal with our internal things. It does not necessarily mean that you are going to become a drug addict or alcoholic. It just means that you're more susceptible to it, and that's how you're going to cope with your internal demons.
Right. And, it's, for me personally, it was like, and I know that I've heard this said by many addicts, and maybe it's true for someone listening to the program now, I felt like there was this hole inside of me, and I was trying to fill it with anything that I could think that might fill it, and I tried to fill it with drugs, and I tried to fill it with alcohol, and I tried to fill it with pornography, and I tried to fill it with different ways to succeed at life that always ended up failing. But it was like there was this hole inside me that I couldn't fill. And I think I've come to understand what that hole kind of came from in my childhood. Mm-hmm. And I know that the only thing that finally filled it was to fully integrate myself as a person and find out who I really was and who I really wanted to be, and start working through those things from the past that had made me feel that way, and to get some truly fulfilling things in my life, like a successful career that I enjoy, and a family that I love, and a partner in life that I can't get enough of, who's also an amazing podcast host.
Thank you.
And who believed in me when literally no one else would. Mm-hmm. There was much of my life where I couldn't conceive that it was even possible to wake up in the morning and function throughout the day without something. A guy that I worked with years and years ago, he's since passed away from drugs, sadly. But he used to say, reality is so boring, just take me somewhere else. Take me anywhere else. And he meant it. He wasn't saying it to be facetious. He didn't mean it as a joke. He meant it. Reality is so boring, take me somewhere else. And he would literally would take whatever was presented to him, and it led him to a really dark place that he never got out of.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the behaviors from an addict's side that you discover happened during your addiction that you didn't realize during your addiction until you got recovery, and how it affects your marriage.
I can definitely go through some of those. So one of the worst behaviors that addicts develop, and it isn't just a behavior they develop, it becomes a way of life, and it becomes a part of their personality, and it becomes something that is difficult for them to separate themselves from, even when they stop using drugs, and that is dishonesty. Mm-hmm. It starts off as a survival mechanism, so that you can not have to deal with the shame of people around you knowing what you're doing.
Continue what you're doing.
And to allow you to continue what you're doing. And to be able to find ways to get more of what you're doing. And it becomes, as I said, not just a habit, but a way of life. And you get to a point where you don't even realize you're doing it because it's second nature. And I brought that into our marriage. And above anything else that I brought into the marriage, that did the most damage because it completely destroyed our trust.
I noticed that it started to, well, I don't know how long this happened, but I noticed that you even lied to yourself. And I noticed that you had to hide who you truly were, because even being honest with me about anything that was really you, you were afraid would lead to the discovery of your addiction. So you completely shut me out in every way that you could and wouldn't allow me to know who you really were, because you were always afraid that it might lead to knowing that you were still an addict.
Well, that, and I didn't know who I really was because I was lying to myself, because who would be able to face themselves and be okay in their own skin if they allowed themselves to see who they really were in the midst of all that.
On my side, as a spouse of an addict, it was a very lonely place. And it was really sad because I always kind of knew that there was something missing, and I always knew that I didn't really know who he was. And I always knew he was like hiding from me, and I knew that he was kind of putting on this front, but I couldn't figure out why. And I couldn't figure out how much he was doing it. And it really left me feeling lonely and scared and insecure and really leery about him.
Unsafe.
Very unsafe. It caused me to not be able to really love him and to open up to him and to put my guard down. So I was a bit closed off and hesitant because I knew something wasn't right, but I couldn't really put my finger on it because at that time he wasn't using in such a way that it was blatantly obvious. I didn't know what it was.
No, I was hardly using it all. And in fact, when I moved in with Jess, shortly before we got married, I wasn't smoking pot anymore. It had been a little bit of time. And I wasn't drinking anymore. It had been a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't doing anything. And it wasn't until, there had been a couple occasions while we were dating that I had used pills or gotten a prescription for cough medicine. And, it wasn't until I started having and I thought I was okay. I thought I got it licked. It's like, okay, cool. I don't have to open up to her about it. I don't have to let her know because I've gotten there. I'm okay. But I never dealt with it. I never got any recovery from the addiction. I never dealt with any of the problems that started it to begin with. And just kind of gritted my teeth, and it wasn't even that the situation in my life was such that it was easy to stop using at the time, because I didn't have access and I had other things going on. And then I started having some tooth problems, and I started seeing a dentist, and that led to the addict in me knowing I could get some prescriptions for some painkillers. And so I started using again. But it was very sporadic, it would be a couple days here, then a couple weeks without it, then a couple days, then a couple weeks without it. And, those addictive behaviors, those addictive tendencies, all that was still there. It was bubbling right under the surface. And, it wasn't even under the surface because I still wasn't being honest about who I was.
No.
And I still wasn't being honest about what I had done and what I had been doing while we were together.
Because that plays straight into, even though you stopped the drugs, or you might only be using them sporadically, you haven't gone through recovery, you haven't become healthy.
Right.
And so everything stays.
Right.
The only thing is the drugs aren't there anymore. But everything that you were doing, everything that you were during your drug use is still you.
And, to be even more honest about some more shameful things, I wasn't using the substances as much. So what I did as an addict was I turned to pornography, and my pornography use went up. And I wasn't being honest about that either. In fact, I was the exact opposite of honest about it. But, that manifested in a very addictive way. For me, pornography was very much a substitute and a crutch when I didn't have drugs, because it was very much a part of my addictive nature. And and it's been proven out through science that it kind of stimulates the same addiction pathways in your brain. It doesn't it does. And it has the same types of release of chemicals in your brain, and it changes your brain in the same way that addictive drugs do.
Yes.
And so I just kind of, it was a long series of using one substance to get over another, or to get through not having another. And even if I was able to honestly say, well, I'm not on drugs or alcohol, I'm not using anything, I might have been sober, but I wasn't clean.
Right.
Or I guess what the distinction they use in the program, and when I say program, just know I'm talking about Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a whole bunch of anonymous programs, but when I say the program generically, I'm referring to
the 12-step
the 12-step programs, and specifically the one that I was a part of, which is NA, Narcotics Anonymous. But they say you can be clean, but that doesn't mean you have any recovery.
Right.
They talk about how much clean time you have, and then they'll talk about how much recovery time you have. So you can have all the clean time in the world, but if you're not doing anything to actively work on yourself, you don't have any recovery.
Right.
And you're still going to be that same addict. You're just not going to be using drugs. It's kind of like a dry drunk.
Right. You know, it was really difficult for me as a wife to see you go through that. One particular reason, and this might be a very selfish reason, was that you knew how I felt about drugs. And I had grown up in a home with several family members who were drug addicts and alcoholics. And my stepfather, many years ago, passed away from an overdose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have firsthand experience with that lifestyle, and I did not want to live it.
Two past stepfathers that died from drug overdoses.
Correct. When I say that you don't have to become a drug addict or alcoholic when you come from a family like that, I did not become one.
Right.
But I was very much against it, even recreational use, because I knew that I had the addiction tendencies, and I knew should I ever play with anything, I probably would have died at a very early age. So I stayed away, and I used fear as my mechanism to never get into it.
A little healthy fear is good sometimes.
Mm-hmm. What angered me the most about Sean was that he didn't stop using for me. He knew how I felt about it, and he knew how my childhood and how I grew up, and he also knew one of my deal breakers was lying, and he was doing it constantly. I took all of this very personally. I took it as an attack on me, that I wasn't good enough, or that he didn't love me enough, or I wasn't worthy enough. And even with all I knew about alcoholism and drug addiction, I still never quite understood the piece that it had nothing to do with me.
So you want to talk about some stereotypical addict behavior and addict thinking. So, okay, here I am knowing that I'm lying about my drug use to her. So then also knowing that lying is a big no-no for her. So what was my solution as an addict in my addict mind?
Oh, goodness.
Well, I better lie about that too.
Yep.
And that's a little window into how addicts think. And it seems rational to them. And they don't know any different.
No.
And you touch on something very important, which is another truth that I want to put out there to people about addiction is, if your loved one, your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, your mother, your father is an addict, and they're not quitting because they love you, they're never going to, because you can't do something like that for another person. It has to be about yourself.
It does.
So Jessica was a huge motivator. Our children were a huge motivator for me to quit. But ultimately, it had to be because I wanted to quit.
Right.
And addicts don't do things like that to intentionally hurt the ones they love. It feels like that to their loved ones.
And to someone who's healthy, it would make sense that you would do something like that for your family, especially when you're putting them in danger or hurting them or being emotionally or physically abusive. How could they not see? The reason is it's the addiction. The unhealthy behaviors and thoughts and the ways that their mind works and thinks, they're not able to think of someone else in those ways.
They're incapable of healthy thinking. When they're in the midst of addiction, they're incapable of I shouldn't say they. We are incapable of healthy thinking. And I want to speak directly for a moment to people who are listening to the show that have a loved one that's in the throes of addiction, and just without it being used as an excuse for them or a free pass for them, they're not doing it because there's something wrong with you, and they're not doing it to intentionally hurt you. They don't know any different, and they can't help it. Someone could offer them $50 million to quit doing whatever their addiction is, and they probably wouldn't be able to do it, or they could do it for a little while, but they'd fail at it.
Right.
Because they're not doing it for themselves. It's more intense in this aspect than even those simple changes, because any change you want to make personally has to be because you want to make the change. You're never going to be able to make a real substantial change to yourself unless it's something that you internally want. But that is so much more true for addiction.
That's why so many people lose their lives to addiction.
Well, it takes over everything. It's all consuming, and I'm not trying to make this like a show about the program, but there's so much good stuff in it. Your life becomes obsessed with finding the ways and means to get more of whatever substance you're wanting to use, and that overrides everything. You will screw over your own parents. You will screw over your own spouse. You will screw over yourself to be able to do it. And keep in mind, and just try to swallow this, that addict knows that the drugs are going to kill him in the end, and they don't care. You could have literally told me, if you take this Norco or you take this Oxycontin, there's a 50-50 chance that you'll drop dead right in that moment, and I would have popped it right in my mouth. Literally. Probably could have told me there was an 80% chance it would have killed me, and I would have done it.
And as someone who's not an addict, I couldn't conceive how you could even do that. Do you look back and are you flabbergasted at yourself? Or does it make sense because you went through it?
Flabbergasted isn't the right word because I was there. and I have... Yeah, no, it's completely effing crazy. Yeah, it's not rational. It's stupid. What the hell was I thinking? But I'm not taken aback that I had those thoughts because I knew what I was capable of. Right. And I guess, luckily for me, throughout my entire addiction, even though I might have hid it from other people out of shame, I never really once lied to myself in the sense that I knew I was a drug addict. I knew I was an addict. I thought I could hide it better than most people. I thought I could function better than most people, but I knew I was an addict. So, no, those thoughts don't surprise me because I was there. I had them, but do I think that they're normal thoughts or that normal people have those thoughts? And when I say normal, I guess
someone who
put
isn't
quotes around
an
it.
addict.
Do I think someone who's not an addict would have those thoughts? No, that's crazy. Those thoughts are crazy.
So, when it comes to being a husband and father, how has being clean and going through recovery changed how you operate as a husband, as a father, as an employee in your life?
Well, listen, first of all, life is overwhelming as it is. Being a husband and being a father is a lot of work. It's good work, but it's a lot of work. It's overwhelming. Put a career in on top of that, and a home to take care of on top of that. So one of the first things it does is it frees up a heck of a lot of your time, because you're spending almost all your time trying to make sure you maintain that addiction. So whereas maybe I didn't have so much mental space to take care of you, spend time with you, take care of the kids, forward my career in a healthy way, because I spent so much time worrying about... And it wasn't so much true in that sense because I wasn't using as much in our marriage as I had in the past in my life, but it frees up a lot of mental space to be able to work on yourself, to be able to love your family, and to be able to grow good things around you. So the other thing it does is you have mental clarity, right? So even if you're not using so much that you're messed up all the time, you're like I talked about with addict thinking, you don't have clear thoughts. You don't have rational thoughts. You're not having healthy thoughts. And being clean and being in recovery gives you a much more clear head, much more rational head. You're able to discern what's good for you and what isn't. You're able to see what's actually, filling that hole inside of you, which now for me is you and the kids and our home and our career and this podcast and helping married couples. And it fills me up in a way that drugs never, ever did. Because that's like a false sense of... I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I guess it's like when you're on a diet and they tell you to drink a lot of water when you're hungry, and it doesn't really fill that. It might fill up your stomach temporarily, but it's not really doing it for you, where eating a couple double cheeseburgers would.
Right.
But it's a much more real and wholesome sense of fulfillment. The drugs never give you a sense of fulfillment. They kind of tide things over.
Yeah.
until you can get your next fix.
So, and I can imagine, and seeing as that I lived through it with you.
I'm sorry you had to do that. I mean, I'm not even kidding.
I think that you and I are a better couple today because of our challenges, and I don't regret any of them. But I do know that it incapacitated you in so many ways. You were not able to effectively communicate or even hold real conversations or discussions. You were always defensive about everything all the time.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because we're coming towards kind of the end of the show, and this topic is so deep, and we might have to, we're going to have to do another episode about this.
Yeah.
Because we're running out of time, and I want to cover everything. So just like we did with porn, I think we need to cover it again. But what you touched on right there is, so this is another truth that I want people to know about addiction. Whether you're an addict or you're living with an addict, when you start abusing drugs or alcohol or pornography or whatever, when you become an addict, your emotional growth stops. It is stunted and stays at the age you are when you started. So I started using pretty heavily by the time I was 16, but I really started when I was about 14, with weed and a little more with alcohol and experimenting with other stuff. So when we got married, you married a 14-year-old boy on an emotional level.
Right.
I had a man's body.
And
but emotionally, I was a 14-year-old.
I talk about that in my article. I urge you guys to read that, whether you're an addict or the spouse of an addict or you love someone who's an addict or alcoholic. Please read my article because I go into great detail about that. But that was, I didn't know that was really a thing until I discovered it's actually been researched and proven.
No, it's proven through science.
And it was shocking because I married a man. By your age,
Cradle robber.
You were a man. By your body, you were a man. Emotionally.
Boy, was I.
Emotionally and mentally, you were still a teenage boy.
Very much, very much.
And when I discovered that, when I found that out, everything made sense. So when we talk about how a marriage is impacted by drugs or alcohol, the best way to put it is our marriage was a 30-something-year-old woman who was married to a man with the mental capabilities and thinking of a 14-year-old boy. Now you tell me how that would impact a marriage on so many levels. It was hard. And I couldn't understand it, and it drove me crazy, and it broke my heart.
Yeah, I had a lot of maturing to do, and it took a long time.
I did not sign up to raise a man.
No. And ultimately, it was my responsibility to raise myself.
It was. And by me thinking that I had to raise him was codependent behavior.
And it also leads to a lot of resentment. It is codependent behavior, and that's another thing, and we'll probably save that for
That's
part 2 for this, because codependent behavior plays right into the addict in a relationship, because a lot of times addicts look for codependence because they will help
co-sign their stuff.
Right. Yeah, and they'll be the ones to pull the addict out of their messes and to drag them up and
hold their hand and protect them. But addicts and alcoholics, they're also finding, are more times than not codependents themselves. But we're going to have to do an episode on that.
We will.
Because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I really, really admire is that while Sean went through all this, and while he was stuck at the emotional maturity of a 14-year-old boy, I refused to be his codependent.
Well, she was for a little bit.
Yes, I was.
And
then
nothing really changed.
And then I stopped, and I got help myself, and I went to CODA, Codependence Anonymous. I read Codependence No More, and I worked on myself.
Yeah.
And I let Sean to his own demons and to work on himself. And I do have to say this about addicts. Sean is an incredible man today. He is one of the most loving, devoted, responsible, motivated people I know.
Do I still have that man's body?
Most definitely, baby.
It's a little chubbier than it was.
One thing about his struggle with addiction and getting clean and going through recovery is he is a stronger, man today than if he hadn't gone through it. He had to raise himself. He had to teach himself. He had to fall. He had to get up. And boy, is that hard to do as an adult, is to teach yourself how to be a man. But I think that it makes every single one of your positive traits even stronger. And I think that when you really get through recovery and you really get healthy, that you are unlike any healthy person. You have a view on life and a struggle in life that you went through that nobody else could ever understand when you get there.
Yeah, so leaving the show on a positive note, because we talked about a lot of heavy things and a lot of bad things, and there's still much more. Another truth, the last truth for this episode that I want you to know about addiction and addicts is, if they can overcome that addiction, they will become one of the most responsible, respectful, as well as respected, moralistic, motivated, hardworking, strong, and trustworthy people you could ever meet. They become some of the best spouses, parents, employees that you could ever find, if they can overcome that addiction and get some real recovery in. And I also want to put out there that while the NA program did wonders in my life, it wasn't the only resource I used to transcend my addiction. And even though you're going to hear a lot of good things from us about those programs, they are by no means the be-all and end-all of addiction recovery.
Or even just standalone, if you do choose to use them.
It's like everything else on this show. It's you've got to take what works for you and leave the rest. And that might be a little from that, a little from something else. Everything in those programs didn't work for me, but a lot of it did. And there's a lot of things in those programs that would work for anybody. But I don't want you to think that we're advocating any one way. You got to find the way that works for you. So
there's probably people wondering, well, I want to know what worked for you. What did you use?
So it was a combination of a 12-step program and getting some good people around me. It was not really changing, but being very selective. Well, if you want to go all the way back to when I started, because it took many years for me to get clean. It started before we were together, and it finished a couple years after we were together. You got to change the people, places, and things that you're around. You have to completely redo that whole thing in your life. You have to get away from the people. You have to get away from the places you're used to and the things you do. You got to change habits, big and small habits. You've got to do things differently. I took a lot from the NA program and 12-step programs in general. It's just good, sound life advice. Church and religion helped me a lot. And having a strong support system at home. It took a lot of personal growth and personal discovery and a lot of things that we talk about, like intentionality and being honest with myself and learning how to be honest with the people around me. And it took, frankly, a lot of bare-knuckled, teeth-clenched willpower, you know, and it was making an internal decision that I was going to be done with it and I wasn't going to pick up another drug or another drink for the rest of my life, and then doing that no matter how much I wanted to. And you know, some people will say they're alcoholics and they'll quit using alcohol, but they'll continue to use other things recreationally, and more power to them. And there are some people who say, well, I was addicted to cocaine and I quit doing cocaine, but I still drink every now and then. For me personally, and I'm not saying that this is what everybody needs to do, but for me personally, although there were certain things that I was addicted to and certain things that I know I could never do again, for me, the choice was to just stop everything. And I would highly suggest, if you're using multiple substances, or even if you're only doing one or two things, or even if you have a huge problem with one thing, but maybe not a problem at all with something else, I would advocate that at least in the beginning, you stop everything so that you can have that clear head. And for me, that's how I choose to live my life. Except for coffee, I'm not giving that up. I even gave up the cigarettes.
They even say in the 12-step program that if you're going to do it and you're going to do it right, you need to give up alcohol too. Alcohol is considered a drug.
The NA program, the Narcotics Anonymous program, advocates quitting everything, and they consider alcohol a drug. And that makes sense for their program. The Alcoholics Anonymous program does not consider alcohol a drug and considers drugs separate, and they have their own philosophy on that. And they don't necessarily advocate quitting everything, but they don't necessarily advocate doing that stuff either. And that's a whole other debate, but that's why I like to say it like this. For me personally, it was better for me to stop everything. And if anyone is considering going down the road of recovery, even if they don't have a problem with several different things, or they don't feel like they do, I would highly suggest that you just stop everything in the beginning. Because you need to have that clarity of thought. And you need to be away from it and have a little bit of separation from it before you can make any of those kinds of decisions. So that's kind of what worked for me. Taking a little bit from the program, well, a lot from the program, taking a little bit from religion and church and a good strong support group and selective people that I kept around me, and making sure that I wasn't aligning myself or spending too much time with unhealthy people, and just stopping everything and focusing on me and focusing on the root causes of some of those problems, not just the symptoms of those problems.
Well, I think we're definitely going to have to do another episode on addiction and then an episode on codependency.
Yeah, it all kind of goes hand in hand.
It does.
And we'll make sure we get some links to some addiction help resources, either in the podcast description or on our website on the resources page.
Yeah.
Because especially with what everybody's been through with COVID and everything, addiction's bigger than ever right now. And we want to get help to as many people as we possibly can. And so if you are struggling with addiction and you want to get some help, and maybe you don't know what your next move should be or how to even start with that kind of process, or maybe you just want to know what it would look like. Maybe you're not ready to commit to it yet, but you kind of want to get a little more information or talk about whether you maybe are an addict or not. Maybe you don't think you have a problem, but you're wondering and you're open-minded enough to find out. This is exactly why one of the reasons why I offer my mentorship. So you can get in touch with us and you could meet with me personally. And addiction and possible addictions is definitely one of the things that we could cover and that I have a lot of knowledge and resources in. But also things like speaking honestly and openly and being a man of integrity, learning to lead your family and in your marriage, but lead in a gentle way. And learning how to establish that emotional connection with your spouse. Overcoming those personal demons like porn addiction or substance abuse. Restoring trust after a betrayal and healing your spouse from betrayal trauma. Becoming respected in your family and by your coworkers and your peers. Those are all things that I do in my mentorship. So if you want help in any of those areas, but especially for this show in the area of recovery from addiction or anything like that, get in touch with us through the website. Schedule some time with me. I'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, that was really, really powerful. Was it hard to share your story like that?
No, I don't have a problem talking about the things I've done or what I've gone through. There are other people out there who make a big deal about how difficult it is for them to talk about, or how I'm finally going to share. And I've been, dude, if you've gone through something and you have some hope and some strength you can bring to other people, just share it. Yeah, I did those things and it led me to be the man I am. And I don't regret the man I became because of that. I wish there was a healthier way I could have gone about getting to where I am today. Like Jess said, she doesn't regret any of the struggles. I most definitely regret the way we got to where we are, but I don't regret where we are. And I don't think I necessarily would have got there any other way. But yeah, if someone's saying, well, I can't, I'm finally going to share my you should just be talking about it anyway. If you can help somebody, just talk about it. And that's how I feel. No, it happened. I did it. So why shouldn't I be able to talk about it? I was okay with doing those things, so I better damn well be okay to talk about them now.
Well, it doesn't end here. Do check out our blog posts. Sean's article and my article, as he likes to call them. He hates calling them blog posts.
Yeah, their articles were journalists.
We will be covering this topic in those for this week as well.
Are you not a journalist if you don't get paid for the articles?
Oh my goodness, here we go.
I think that just makes you a professional journalist.
If you want to hear the episode early, because it releases on Tuesday to the public, we send it to our subscribers on Sunday, along with the articles that go with the podcast every week in that Sunday newsletter. Go to our website and sign up for our newsletters, www.theconfidentmarriage.com.
Yeah.
That way you get everything early and you get to get all that information ahead of time in advance.
First access to all our exclusive announcements. And if you're listening to this podcast on Tuesday, if you were a subscriber, you could have heard it 3 days ago.
So that is it for this week. We will see you next week.
Yes, next week will be continuing our workshop topics. We will be doing admiration of your spouse. The third of the 4 cornerstones.
Of a confident marriage.
Confidently. I admire you.
I admire you.
And I appreciate you sticking with me and believing in me.
You know, I have not been easy. I appreciate you sticking with me.
She's not easy, ladies and gentlemen. She's not cheap either.
Oh, goodness.
And if you'd like to pay me for one of my articles so I can call myself a professional journalist, please contact us.
Give him a penny.
Whatever you get paid, still a professional.
That is it for this episode of The Confident Marriage. I'm your host, Jessica.
And I'm your host, Sean. Have a great week, everybody.